Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates, coming to you from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. We want to welcome everybody who's joining us here on the show tonight, and thank you for being here. We're going to expand with the Pledge of Allegiance and the National Anthem tonight. We have too much going on. We want to get right into it. We're coming on here late. We didn't want to do that, but we're here anyway. Folks, we appreciate you all being here. As you know, there's been a lot going on, and I wanted to make sure that everybody was up to date on what's going on. This past Friday and Saturday, we had some activity in the Pacific Northwest. Let us go down to the USGS map here, and I want to bring it up and show you what has been going on. Excuse me. Just to give you an idea. Then we'll go in and talk about quite a few other things that are happening around the globe and in your neck of the woods especially. So folks, hang in here with us for just a second. Let's go over here to the Pacific Northwest first. Okay? Over here on the Gorda Escarpment, right here, right in this area, just west of the Cascadia subduction zone, down here in the southern Cascadia subduction zone region. Okay, just west of the Cascadia subduction zone, we had a 5.0 earthquake Friday or Saturday, and it expanded out to about 18 aftershocks after that. We also had more earthquakes up here between the Cascadia subduction zone and the Northern California shoreline. 3.0, 2.7, 2.8 in this region here. Going further north, we had a couple earthquakes up here along the Cascadia subduction zone region just west of Oregon. Going further north, we've had multiple earthquakes up here around Queen Charlotte Island, and USGS is not showing those to us right now. We're going to talk about those earthquakes in just a second. There's a lot of energy being expended up here in this region, and USGS is not reporting it. Okay? I have gotten permission to be on Newsbreak. Those of you that have Newsbreak on your telephones as an app, I'm going to be putting articles about earthquakes on Newsbreak. I'm going to try to do it on a daily basis. As you see those articles, let me know that you see them. Okay? I just became an authorized author of articles on Newsbreak. So that is, I'm going to have this as just one more avenue to get information out. I want to get this information out because I feel it's very, very important for people's safety. For people's safety. I've always been talking about that. Over here in the Aleutian Islands, guys, we have a 4.3 over here in the Rad Islands. Now, folks, this wouldn't be much of anything to talk about, except over here by Kamchatka Peninsula, we had a 6.0 the other day, a 6.0 earthquake, and yesterday we had a 5.8 over here. What's going on? The energy that we've been seeing up here east of the Kamchatka Peninsula is coming from down here in Indonesia, going up through the Mariana Trench, going over through the Philippines, and up this way towards Taiwan, up through Japan, either way here to Japan, and up here into the Kuril Islands. Over here in the Kuril Islands, just north of Hokkaido, we had a 5.8 magnitude earthquake here. That energy has gone up here as well. Like I said, a 5.8 and a 6.0 earthquake up here in this region just within the last couple days. So that energy is going west and north into east and north into Alaska. Boy, I can't get my directions straight. Now it seems like I'm coming up on USGS-itis. I hope not. Over here, in the Aleutian Islands here, this is just south of Akutan, Alaska. This is a moderate 4.4 moderate earthquake here. Okay? This is 16 miles deep. 16 miles deep today. This energy is going to continue up into Alaska. And as we see that turn through the Gulf of Alaska and come down here eastbound into Mount Sitkan and other areas here, we're going to still consider this, we're going to continue to see earthquakes of larger magnitudes here. And coming down here into British Columbia, Queen Charlotte Island, down here into Vancouver Island area. We're going to continue to see earthquakes in this region. They are not talking about it. USGS is not talking about this, and they better well be doing it very soon. Okay, let's go back down here into the Pacific Ocean. Let's talk about this earthquake in the Kermadec Islands. The Kermadec Islands are just north of New Zealand. This is a 5.4 large earthquake, a mid-range 5.4 earthquake up here in the Kermadec Islands. Now this is 47 miles deep. Actually 48 miles deep. This is a shallow earthquake. This is one of the more shallow earthquakes that we've seen in this region in a very long time. Okay? Up here to the north. This is a 4.3 in the southern part of Fiji. This is 208 miles deep. Still a fairly shallow quake because we've seen 359 miles deep here. We've seen 428 miles deep here. Those are very deep quakes. This is just half of that. Half of that. Going up here into the north of Fiji here, we have a 5.0 earthquake. A 5.0 earthquake. USGS has this as a 4.4. This was a 5.0 earthquake when it happened. This is 242 miles deep. Still somewhat of a shallow quake. Okay? Came out as a 5.0 earthquake. USGS downgraded to a 4.4. Okay? Typical of what's going on. Canadian Patriot 1 is in the chat. We appreciate Dave for you being here. Dave says, sounds like you had a bit of too much celebration last night for the wife's birthday, brother. If you consider we had pumpkin cake. She wanted me to give her or bake her a pumpkin cake, and we had vanilla ice cream with it. If you call that a celebration, yeah, we had a good time. I appreciate her also coming on the air with us last night before we got off the air. Going further east here today, this is also a 5.1 earthquake over here in Papua New Guinea. A 5.1 earthquake. But wait, there's more. Look at this. This is a 5.4 earthquake. The 5.1 was an aftershock. This 5.4, 6.2 miles deep. Go figure. 10 kilometers deep. This is a 5.1 here, also 6.2 kilometer or 6.2 miles deep. This is also 5.1, 6.2 miles deep. Two aftershocks, twin large earthquakes over here, just north of Rabaul, Papua New Guinea, just off the coast of Papua New Guinea here. And it didn't stop there. Let's look at this. Look what we have here. This is a 5.9, very large earthquake. Folks, you know what I say when I see a 0.9 anything? This was a large earthquake. I believe this was actually 6.4. I believe this was a 6.4 earthquake over here in Fishlaven, yes, Fishlaven, Papua New Guinea. Folks, this was 41 miles northeast of Fishlaven, Papua New Guinea. Now, folks, this is right here. Right here, Papua New Guinea. This is a very forested area. This basically is tropical paradise here, except it's in the hills of Papua New Guinea. I don't see any towns or villages here in this area. But, folks, wait a minute. We go north. We've got another island here. There are people living in this area here. Now, this was a 5.9. There was absolutely no tsunami here at all. This was a strike slip earthquake. Okay? The strike slip is like this. The plate sliding up and down. The plate sliding up and down. This is a subduction zone region. The plate basically did this number, sliding up underneath another plate. This is a huge subduction area. 7 different tectonic plates, one subducting under the other here in Indonesia. That is what happened to cause this earthquake. Okay? But it's not over, guys. It's not over. What about this earthquake here? It's also a 5.1 earthquake. This is 59 kilometers, or 59 miles deep. 59 miles deep. Again, this is in a rugged area. If there's people living in here, we don't really know about it. Okay? You see roads here. There's always some kind of road. There may be people living in this area, we don't know. Okay? We don't know. But this is still a pretty good sized earthquake, a 5.1 large quake. 5.0, 5.9 are considered to be large earthquakes. 5.5 to 5.9 are considered to be very large earthquakes, and very large earthquakes can cause a very much damage, a ton of damage. This was a 5.1. Okay? Here in Papua New Guinea, these people are a third world country. If there's anybody living in this area, their shacks and homes probably collapsed in the shaking. This happened on land here. Now, if this is hit anywhere else, you would be reading about it in the papers. You'd be reading about it online. But this earthquake being in a third world country, you're probably not going to hear about it at all, unfortunately. But folks, to have 3 earthquakes right here, okay, a 5.4 and 2 5.1s here. Then we come down here and we have a 5.9. And then another 5.1 west of here in Papua New Guinea. Okay, that's a lot of energy that's been expended on this plate. And it's the same plate. It's the same plate subducting under the other North American plate here. This plate is subducting under the North American plate here. Then we go further east here. Okay, this is back in the Valdese Sea. What's this? Another 5.2 large earthquake here. An aftershock. An aftershock of the 8.0 earthquake that was here last week. The 8.0 earthquake that I said was here. They tried calling it 7.2. It wasn't. It was an 8.0 earthquake. Okay? So we have another aftershock here. Then we go over here to central Indonesia, a 4.2. Over here to Java, eastern Java. This is a 4.6 earthquake here, 10 kilometers deep. But folks, look here. Look here in Australia. They're not showing anything here. What's up with that? What's up with that? Folks, I have it on good authority that there was an earthquake in northwestern Australia today. I have it on very good earthquake that there was very good information that there was an earthquake here in northwestern Australia, which there was. I'm showing it to you now. Okay, look at this. Lake Mackay, a small earthquake here in northwestern Australia. Lake Mackay. Okay, USGS did not show this to us, did they? Heaven forbid they're honest with us. Now, folks, while I've got you here with us, okay, you see there's a lot more earthquakes here than they're telling us about. There's a lot more earthquakes here in Indonesia that they're not telling us about. What's up with that? There's 40 earthquakes in Indonesia today. There's those 5 large earthquakes in Papua New Guinea. The rest of these earthquakes here should have been talked about. They should be widely visible with USGS, but they're not. They're not. Okay? I find it abhorrent. I find it abhorrent that this agency doesn't talk about it. Because over here in Indonesia, the European agency has a lot of quakes here. And frequently USGS also tells us about earthquakes here in this region that are 3.2, 3.4, 3.5 and such, and yet they're not talking about this 3.02 here at Lake Mackay, northwestern Australia today. They're not saying a word about it. Okay? Now, with that said, I want to show you something else. Let's bring up our USGS map again. Okay? Like I said, they showed this earthquake over here in eastern Java, a 4.6, 6.2 miles, 10 kilometers deep. Okay? Kimberly Hopkins just gave us another $5 super chat. Thank you, Kimberly. We appreciate that. God bless you for that. That means a lot. Richard Smith says the earth is shaking all over, rocking the night away. Oh, you bet your life it is. You bet it is. Okay? USGS is not telling us anything about what's going on here in the Sunda Strait between southern Sumatra and Java, Indonesia. What do you think happened over here? What do you think happened over here overnight? Okay? This is the Azores, guys. I'm sorry, not the Azores. This is Mount Etna. I was looking at the chat here, and somebody said 2.7 Azores in Portugal, and I'm going, okay, yeah, that's true. And I thought, okay, Okay, I'm sorry, this is Mount Etna. Mount Etna erupted. Let's go over here and talk about Mount Etna erupting. Okay, I want to show you this.
Where one of the volcanoes erupted again and resulted in emergency warning. Mount Etna is considered to be a safe volcano. Most eruptions do not endanger those visiting or living in the area. Mount Etna lit up the sky over Sicily last night on 12 November after a quiet few months. One of the world's most active volcanoes, that is Etna, dramatic displays are rarely out of the highlands for long. After a morning of intense degassing and a drastic increase in volcanic tremor, Mount Etna gives signs of maximum agitation starting from 2 p.m. After a morning of intense degassing and a drastic increase in volcanic tremor, Mount Etna gives signs of maximum agitation starting from 3 p.m. 2 hours later, the new paroxysm began, which is still ongoing in these hours and which will also follow in the next few days if it lasts. Most of the time, Etna's explosions are classed as low-level volcanic activity. This includes ash plume, lava fountaining, and strombolian explosions, mild blasts of magma which are not less dramatic to observe. Italy's National Institutes of Geophysics and Volcanology say that the height of last night's eruptive column is estimated to be about 4,500 meters above sea level. Year 2023 was a poor year for volcanic events, but the few eruptions were also very intense and surprising. The spring paroxysm under the clouds surprised everyone. The August eruption caught everyone off guard without any instrumental warning. And on the afternoon of November 12, here is the third event of the year. In August, Catania Airport was forced to close temporarily and driving restrictions were put in place following an eruption that spewed ash over the surrounding area. But there's no sign that international travel to the Italian island is disrupted on this occasion, despite the awe-inspiring photos of boiling smoke and bright red lava.
That's incredible, guys. That's totally
Where
awesome.
one of the volcanoes.
Okay, and I'm sorry this was not.
You've probably seen this
that was
before,
over in southern Italy.
but this is what it's like inside a tank when it fires. Because of
I don't know
security
what happened, guys.
concerns,
Hold
the
on.
U.S. Army doesn't let outside cameras inside its tanks. But it gave us this exclusive footage of.
I have no idea how that happened. Anyway, I'm sorry, that was not the volcano I wanted to show you, but it was Mount Etna. That was over in southern Italy. Okay? Over in southern Italy. So that's my bad. Sorry about that. Anyway, guys, a lot of stuff is going on. A lot of different volcanoes are going off all over the place. Okay? A ton of volcanic activity. Okay? Now, with that said, I want to show you something else. Okay? We've been talking about Grindavik Indonesia or Grindavik, Iceland for weeks now. There was a small eruption out in the middle of the country outside of Grindavik during the weekend. Just a small vent opened up and it put lava on the ground. However, what has happened in Iceland is continuing. The first thing I want to do is show you this video from Geology Hub. I want this scientist to show you what's going on. Then I will put some more commentary with this video.
During the last 60 hours, if you were to have hypothetically dug a 100-foot deep hole in the ground underneath the town of Grindavik, you may have very well struck magma at one point. Although this is still slightly uncertain, on November 12th magma was potentially as little as only a few dozen meters underneath the town. The intrusion of this magma combined with the subsidence caused when the magma shifted elsewhere caused numerous several meter deep extensional fissures to form throughout the town at the approximate location shown on screen, even splitting several buildings. If you are curious as to how much the ground moved, in only a 6-hour period on November 10th, the ground underneath Grindavik subsided by up to 1.2 meters or 3.94 feet and expanded in an east to west direction by 30 centimeters or 11.8 inches. Buildings are generally not made to be able to withstand such extreme ground movements, hence the fairly widespread damage in the town. And now, on November 13th, gas has been spotted rising from these cracks which has a notably white color. So, is a dangerous volcanic eruption about to take place in the middle of town? While this could still very well occur, I am actually leaning towards this not occurring in the short-term future, as the gas which was spotted, in my opinion, was most likely not truly volcanic gas from very shallow magma, but rather rising steam generated by burst-hot water pipes. And in the last 36 hours, the situation appears to have rapidly changed underneath Grindavik, despite the fact that it really was just minutes away from an eruption at one point, as the ground has continued to subside across the entirety of the underlying dike. Yet, this subsidence is occurring in an uneven manner, with more significant subsidence occurring further south on the dike intrusion, and increasingly less subsidence occurring during the last 36 hours the further north you go on the dike. Thus, I have two potential explanations for this activity, and both involve magma slightly draining away from where it was once shallowest. Possibility 1 is that at-depth magma is draining away from where it was previously intruding near Grindavik and under the ocean, and is now going towards where magma was first pooling in this dike several days earlier. This possibility revolves around the least amount of recent subsidence occurring around a crater route referred to as Sindahuk-a-Kigar. However, this would not explain why it too is also experiencing minor subsidence. The second possibility is that since earthquakes are now occurring at increasingly northward locations, it could indicate that the subsidence we are seeing is caused by minor dike propagation northeastward at what was previously the very northern end of the dike. Thus, magma might be draining from near Grindavik and moving northwards. Regardless of which is the case, we now have a good estimate on the approximate amount of magma involved in this current unrest. Specifically, a volume of 70 million cubic meters, or a little less than half what Fagradolsfjall erupted during its 6-month-long eruption in 2021. However, despite this apparent change in fate, the sheer unpredictability of what we have witnessed the magma do in the last 3 weeks really indicates that we don't yet fully understand this volcanic system, which is called Rekenas and covers the area shown on screen. In other words, while it might look like Grindavik has been spared complete destruction, we might be misinterpreting ongoing magma movement, and it could suddenly erupt within the town still, or another shift could occur, once again sending magma intruding underneath Grindavik. Regardless, I do believe that Grindavik remaining evacuated like the current policy for now is the correct decision, as the area is not yet safe and a volcanic eruption still could unexpectedly occur there. Thus, while a volcanic eruption still could be imminent, the odds of an eruption occurring in the next 36 hours now appear to be lower than they were during the last 36 hours. As a final note, I would like to thank this channel's new patron, Joseph McQuaid, for supporting this channel.
Okay, this was a report from Geology Hub, guys. Now, there's a lot of stuff going on still. I want to make a statement here. Iceland is the northernmost hotspot on the Atlantic fault. It's the northernmost hotspot on the Icelandic fault, the Atlantic fault up there. It's huge. Now, while this volcano did not decimate the town, there has been plenty of damage here in Grindavik during the past 48 hours. I want to show you this. The shaking that I told you about that's been happening there in Grindavik has damaged homes. It's torn apart the wallboard, it's torn apart homes, it's torn apart the land mass there. Okay? There's been subsidence. Okay? That means before the subsidence happened, there was a magma increase, and it caused the ground to rise. It caused the ground to rise a lot, upwards of 2.5 feet at one time. I saw a video of the ground doing this number this past weekend. The ground was actually moving like this. Trees were going up and down in the ground. Now, given that, homes and buildings also been damaged by this land movement. Okay, let me show you this. Look at this. Almost a 2-foot fissure has opened up on this roadway. Now, the steam that you see may or may not be volcanic. It may not be coming from magma down beneath the surface. It's cold there in Iceland at this time of year. Very cold. It's usually cold there all year round. I think it might get up into the 50s during the day in the summertime, but it still gets cold here. This is water pipes beneath the ground, we believe. We believe that the underlying substructure from the town, the water lines and gas lines, may have broken with this ground movement. Okay? This probably is nothing more than steam coming from underground water here. Okay? Now, we have often told you that 6 to 7% of all magma is water. 6 to 7% of all magma was water. Earlier today, the decision was made to keep this community of Grindavik evacuated. Why? Because the SO2 levels, sulfuric dioxide levels, were still high, which means that magma is still down beneath the surface here in Grindavik. But we believe the hot spot has actually moved north and northeast from Grindavik. We will see what happens. That's what we believe has happened. It could come back just like the Geology Hub scientists said. But look at this. This huge fissure opened up in this roadway. It's incredible ground movement. Look at this. The ground fell here. Okay? There was ground elevation gained here, and then, because the magma moved, the ground fell. The building moved on its foundation. It may have to have a new foundation put on it. But there's plenty of damage here in Grindavik, Iceland. And I don't think it's going to stop. Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed says she's been there at the Blue Lagoon. That would have been fantastic. I would love to have gone there. I have a friend of mine from Tonga that went there. He loved it in Iceland. He hiked all over Iceland. Now, I do not think that it's over there in Iceland. We're going to keep a good eye on Iceland in the coming days and weeks. As things change in Iceland, we'll give you updates on what is going on. Okay? Before I go further, I want to thank also Heidi Petrick for a $5 super chat that she gave us. Thanks so much, Heidi. We appreciate that. God bless you for that. We really mean that. But folks, this is all over. Literally all over Iceland. Okay? Betty Zoom said she heard the sun is throwing magma at the earth. It's not magma. That is not magma at all. That is plasma. It's throwing plasma from the solar disk out into space, headed in our direction and other places as well. There are sunspots that are throwing CMEs literally all over out into space. We're going to give you an update on the sun tomorrow evening. I'm going to try to get Mark Wages in here tomorrow evening to talk to all of you and me and give us the latest information about what's going on there on the solar disk. There was an M-class 7, an M7 class flare that launched off the sun on Sunday. That is going to reach us tonight into tomorrow, giving us more solar flare plasma energy reaching the earth, heating up the plates. Now, I've explained what happens when that happens, okay? When it heats up the plates, okay? The plasma radiation goes down through the Earth's magnetosphere, and the Earth's magnetosphere right now is very weak, allowing more and more plasma radiation and cosmic radiation into the Earth, okay? When that plasma radiation comes from the sun, when that cosmic radiation comes from outer space, when that electromagnetic radiation comes from the planetary alignments through the magnetosphere, what happens? Okay? As we have been telling you and showing you over the years here, there's a whole lot of gunk and garbage, biological material, sand and dirt and all sorts of stuff that's holding those plates in place. When that plasma radiation comes from the sun through the magnetosphere and reaches the earth, it heats up the plates. That heats up the plates, doesn't it? As it heats up the plates, it makes all that gunk and grime that's holding those plates together, it makes and turns that stuff into an oily, greasy-like substance. When that happens, the plates more freely move. That's why we're seeing all these earthquakes literally around the planet. These plates more freely move. And that's what's happening. Okay? Does anybody have any questions about what I'm telling you? I'm trying to make sure you have all the latest information. Okay? It gets crazy. It gets crazy. Anybody have any questions about that so far? A lot of damage over in Grindavik, Iceland. A ton of damage. Now, I showed you that land movement on the roadway. Look at this. This is an aerial view of the damage. It's incredible. It's incredible damage. They're going to have to completely re-engineer this road. They're going to have to, once the shaking is stopped, once the government in Iceland determines that the shaking and the magma here is no longer going to happen, they're going to have to take road equipment here and tear this road completely apart and resurface it, rebuild the roadway. Okay? That's an awful lot of ground movement. Okay, it's an upward shift. Again, the magma beneath the surface here, even as early as Sunday morning, it was just maybe a few dozen meters beneath the surface. The magma had been raising up and lowering just like this, up and down like this. And it's been going up and down like this as well. That's what caused that. That's what caused that. And it's still steaming. Like I said, the scientists believe there are water pipes that were broken underneath this roadway, and that's why it was steaming so bad. They don't believe it had anything to do with magma beneath the surface. It's possible, but unlikely. Deborah G says everything is escalating, and yes, it is. Now, we've been talking a lot about Mount St. Helens. We've been talking a lot about Mount Rainier. Folks, those volcanoes do not have anything to do with Iceland. Completely separate and distinct incidents. Okay? Let me go back here to the USGS map here. I want to show you something. Now that's Krakatoa. Krakatoa is always erupting to a certain extent. Also, I actually forgot about this earthquake here. This was a 6.1 earthquake in the central Indian Ocean today. This was a very strong 6.1 earthquake in the Indian Ocean today. This was not anywhere near land. It did not hurt any land. There was no tsunami as a result of this earthquake either. A 6.1 earthquake in the southern Indian Ocean here. Okay? No harm, no foul. Right now. And I'm just saying right now. Okay? Just briefly. There are earthquakes over here in Thailand, Myanmar, Vietnam, Cambodia. They are mostly minor earthquakes, 2.0s and such. Okay? USGS is not talking about them. There's minor earthquakes and small earthquakes all over here in the Himalayan range here. Okay? With that said, the Himalayan range is the edge of the plate. It's one of the plates over here. Okay? That movement of seismic energy through the Himalayas comes westbound over here in Tajikistan. This is a 4.2 moderate earthquake here in Tajikistan. 118 miles deep. Okay? A 4.2, 118 miles deep. This is a 5.0. A 5.0, they are saying it's 19 miles southwest of Akasham, Afghanistan. 5.0 large earthquake here. This is 72 miles deep. 72 miles deep. Then we come over here to the southern Caspian Sea over here to Iran. This is a 4.3 here in Iran. Okay? Now, we're not seeing any more activity here in Turkey. But guess what, folks? There are 15 earthquakes here in the Turkey-Syria border area. 15 earthquakes. These are 2s, 3s, and 4s. What happened here? Folks, earlier this year, we had several major earthquakes. Okay? Upwards of 9.0, 10.0 strength. we're still seeing moderate size and small size earthquakes hitting this region. USGS says nothing. 15 earthquakes there. Going over here into Bulgaria. Bulgaria, there was a 4.5 here today. 4.5. Over here into Hungary. Hungary had an earthquake as well. They're not talking about it. They're not talking about it. USGS is showing us one earthquake over here near Monteparo, Italy. This is a 4.4. There's also a 4.5 and a 4.7 here as well. USGS not showing it. Okay? Down here. Okay? This is a 4.3 just off the coast of southern Italy. Well, folks, this 4.3 may have been a result of that Mount Etna eruption this weekend. This earthquake could have happened because that volcano is still erupting. A 4.3 earthquake here, 222 miles deep. Mount Etna is erupting here. Ash is all over the place on roadways, buildings, and hitting cars. Now, you saw the video of the ash from Mount Etna falling onto cars. We have told you what happens to asphalt. If there's a lot of asphalt, very heavy asphalt, it can endanger roofs. It can endanger roofs on homes and other buildings. If the asphalt gets thick, and then it begins to rain, that asphalt turns into concrete and gets very heavy and collapses roofs. We saw what happened on La Palma Island in the Canary Islands when that volcano there erupted earlier this last year. Okay? When that volcano erupted, it threw ash everywhere for miles and miles. And that ash fell on homes and those roofs collapsed. Folks, I don't think that's going to happen necessarily here in Italy or Sicily. But the ash can do damage to paint. There's chemical acids in ash, and it eats away the paint. So those of you over in Italy that listen, and I know there are some, please make sure you get this ash off your car. The best thing to do to get it off is to sweep it off. It's not very heavy right now. If you use water, it may stick. Wipe it off with a brush or a broom. Then wash your car once the ash has stopped coming out of the volcano. When you're out there with the asphalt, make sure you're wearing a face covering to prevent ash being inhaled through your nasal passages or through your mouth. You don't want that to happen. Number one, ash doesn't taste good. Number two, it can be deadly. If you inhale that ash into your lungs or your breathing passages could become clogged and you will no longer be able to breathe and die. If that ash gets into your lungs, it may cause clogging of your lungs and you could die. You could also have little tiny shards of glass. There's little tiny shards of glass that result as a result of the eruption. Okay, all that ash has tiny shards of glass. It's called volcanic glass. Depending on how the ash cools off after it leaves the volcano, you can develop glass particles. Those particles could tear your esophagus, tear your breathing passages up and tear your lungs up as well, and they could cause you to die. Please make sure you're wearing some kind of protection over your face. Make sure you're wearing long sleeve shirts and long pants. Keep that ash off your body as much as you can. Wear goggles. Wear goggles over your eyes. Okay? I talked about this when we talked about Mount St. Helens erupting again. Mount St. Helens erupted in 1980, and again I believe it's 2003 or 2004. Make sure you're wearing proper clothing. Okay? You need to be prepared. Yes, Lamans Light is in the chat saying she was on another chat last night. She was told to quit putting lamb emojis on the person's comments. That's funny. Do you guys have any questions about anything we talked about so far? Okay? Now, USGS is also not talking about any earthquakes at all here in France. They're not talking about any earthquakes at all in Germany. There are earthquakes in France and in Germany. Poland had earthquakes as well. Okay? Yes, there are earthquakes in the, the Alps. The southern Alps of Italy, in the southern part of the Alps. 2.6 magnitude earthquakes. Tremors down here. Okay? But there's been earthquakes all over France for the past week. Okay? USGS says nothing. There are no earthquakes here in Spain today. However, just offshore from Spain and Portugal, over here in the Azores, we're having earthquakes. Okay? Deborah G just gave us another $10 super chat. Thank you, Deborah. We appreciate that. That means a lot to us. God bless you for that. Folks, this is going to continue. These earthquakes are going to continue. I believe that they're also going to increase. I believe they're also going to increase. We've seen a lot of that lately. Okay? We've seen a ton of it lately. Now, we've seen seismic energy go over here to Iceland. I showed you earthquakes here in Iceland earlier. They're continuing. USGS shows nothing. What kind of garbage is that? Earthquakes all over this area. USGS not speaking about it. Okay? Now, this is the peninsula here. I believe this is the Rake James Peninsula here. This is where everything is going on. This is exactly where everything is going on, guys. This is Greenavik right here. Greenavik, Iceland. Over here is where the Blue Lagoon is. Also over here is a huge facility here that has 27 turbines here. 27 turbines. Man has drilled into the upper magma chamber of this volcano to obtain steam from the volcano. The turbines are turned by the steam from the volcano, providing electricity for the people in Iceland. It's a huge facility. The Blue Lagoon spa facility, the water was heated by the magma from underneath in the volcano. The water from that was heated by the volcano. these processes are still ongoing. Now, like I explained, I believe the hotspot has moved from what all the scientists are saying. The hotspots have moved north here into this area. We're going to see what happens in the coming days and weeks as to what happens with this volcano. It's possible it could erupt again. It remains to be seen. Now, you can see where the center of the Atlantic fault comes up here and divides the country of Iceland here. Look at that dividing line here. This is another reason this area has been hit with earthquakes, because the center of the the Atlantic fault cuts the country in half. That is another reason we've had earthquakes here, because the Atlantic fault is cutting this country in half. It's causing the plate to move. The western part of the Atlantic plate is pushing the North American fault, the North American plate, in a southwesterly direction, where the eastern part of the Atlantic plate is pushing Europe in an easterly direction. Okay? It actually could cause Iceland to come to pieces. It could actually cause Iceland to come to pieces. Okay? But that's not all, folks. Let's talk more. Okay? Look down here. This, folks, is the South Sandwich Islands. You see a 5.0 earthquake here. I've shown you 5.0, 5.2, 5.5 earthquakes here in recent days and weeks. This is a 5.0 earthquake in the southern Atlantic Ocean, the South Sandwich Islands. This seismic energy is going to move up through the Antarctic ridge here, and it's going to start up here into the middle, the center of the Atlantic plate. Okay? It's going to come here in the next few days. So we'll be watching for that. Now, I want to show you something else. Okay? Over here in Puerto Rico. Over here in Puerto Rico. You see a red earthquake here. Okay? This earthquake here is a 2.5. A small, minor 2.5. This one is a 2.3 near Ponce, Puerto Rico. This is a 2.2 near Antigona, Puerto Rico. And excuse me, not Antigona, Antonia, Puerto Rico. A 2.2 there. This is a 2.5. Okay? We have a 2.5, 8.5 miles deep. And we have this 2.5, also 8.5 miles deep. Twin earthquakes separated by about 50 miles. Twin earthquakes separated by 50 miles. Isn't that interesting? Okay? These earthquakes over here in southwestern Puerto Rico are the result of two major earthquakes that happened here in 2019. December 26, 2019. I explained what happened here this past week and during past weeks before this. Okay? These were man-made earthquakes. Man-made earthquakes. Okay? Evil men lit up a machine. Evil men lit up this machine. One in Norway, one in Russia, and one in northwestern Australia. They triangulated Puerto Rico on December 26th, which caused an 8.0 earthquake to hit here, causing all sorts of heckin' fire here. It destroyed homes. It leveled buildings. It made people's homes uninhabitable. People went in their homes only to grab food and whatever else is necessary and slept out in their yards. 2 days later on December 28th, those facilities again lit up in Norway, Russia, and over in northwestern Australia, causing an 8.4 earthquake over here in southwestern Puerto Rico, causing even more damage, destroying a natural monument there at the seashore of southwestern Puerto Rico. More damage, more destruction, knocked out the power all over the island of Puerto Rico. Knocked the power completely out. Okay? Evil people using those facilities. It's not over, guys. It's not over. It's possible that these people could be targeted again. I don't know that. It's possible. We need to be aware of what's going on around us. We need to keep our heads on a swivel. We don't have any clue what's going to happen. We don't know. Now, we have 2 more earthquakes over here just on the southern side of the Cayman Ridge. The Cayman Ridge is a huge earthquake fault running from Guatemala all the way out east here. Okay, let me zoom in here and tell you about this and show it to you. The Cayman Ridge here runs from over here in Guatemala runs eastbound out into the Caribbean. Then it makes a turn northward. And then as suddenly as it made the turn northward, it heads east again, just south of the Cayman Islands here. It continues eastbound. It passes over Jamaica, passes to the north of Jamaica. It slides into southern Cuba here. The Cayman Ridge continues eastbound north of Haiti and the Dominican Republic, north of Puerto Rico, north of the United States Virgin Islands, and the British Virgin Islands. It goes north and east of the Leeward Islands, Antigua, and such, and continues southbound into the Atlantic Ocean until it gets over here to Venezuela in South America, at which time the Cayman Ridge turns westbound again and goes over here into Venezuela, over here near Grenada. That's a history of this fault. It's a very deadly fault. It's a very deadly fault. These earthquakes, it drops off here, off the Cayman Ridge. This is a 3.8. 21 miles deep. This is a 3.7. This is 26 miles deep. Okay? That's what can happen when that earthquake fault drops seismic energy. Okay? Now they show one earthquake over here in Peru today. This is not the only earthquake here. They say this is a 4.6 over here in Peru. They're telling us this is 6.1 miles deep, 10 kilometers deep. Folks, there's 20 odd earthquakes over here in South America. They're not even coming ashore and telling us what earthquakes are here. They really don't care, do they? Okay? They just don't. Earthquake here in Oklahoma. I'd never seen an earthquake here in Oklahoma before. So I started looking around. I found this was a 2.6 minor earthquake. This was 0.7 of a mile deep. Then I started looking around at what may have caused it. Folks, you have to look around a little bit. Hey, we have a river here, don't we? When we have a river here, rivers sit on top of fault lines. Most of the time, rivers stand right here on top of fault lines. Guess where this earthquake is? Right on top of a fault. Right on top of the fault. They're saying this is 4 miles northwest of Marland, Oklahoma. Well, that's interesting. Okay? It's not northwest of Marland, Oklahoma. Folks, let me show you something. Number one, let me show you something. Folks, look at this. I believe that's Marland, Oklahoma. This is just west of Marland, Oklahoma, not northwest. Also want to show you something else. Okay? Over here, we have oil and gas pumping rigs here. So not only do we have an earthquake fault here, we have oil and gas pumping operations that cause earthquakes in this area. Okay? And you can see some of these pumps and jacks here, all over these facilities here. Oil and gas pumping operations here. That's one of the other reasons this earthquake hit. Oil and gas pumping operations here. Does anybody have any questions here? Now, I know it's getting late. I'm going to get out of here. I want to tell you something else. There are a bunch of earthquakes hitting here on the New Madrid Fault. USGS would have us believe it's not a big deal. USGS would have us believe that it's not a big deal. 1.5, 1.7 tremors. Microquakes, 0.5, 0.7 microquakes. Folks, how many times do I have to show you earthquakes on the New Madrid Fault? Yes, there are tremors. There are microquakes. But folks, that's not the only thing that's happening here on the New Madrid Fault. Let me make that point perfectly clear. There's a lot more seismic energy here than they're telling us. A ton more. A ton more, guys. I kid you not. Okay? I kid you not. There are a ton more earthquakes here. They just don't want us to know about it. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about all of the earthquakes hitting on the New Madrid Fault. And I promise you guys, there's going to be a lot more earthquakes than they're showing us here. They're showing us nothing. They're showing us virtually nothing here, which is a stupid joke. It's almost ridiculous. Okay? Now, before I leave you here tonight, I want to show you something. It is fall and winter. There are a lot of animals that are going to be hibernating, if they're not already hibernating. Okay? We have bears that hibernate. A lot of raccoons and skunks and everything else hibernate. A lot of animals hibernating. Now, if you encounter an animal that's out here hibernating, be careful. Be very careful. I'll show you why. This animal was found on the side of a road. It looks dead. This is Sonic the Hedgehog. This actually is not Sonic. This is one of his brothers. Maybe we'll call him Adam the Hedgehog. We've got to be very careful. These animals are hibernating. If you try to pick one up, you might get hurt. You might even wake one of them up and get bitten or stung by one of their quills or whatever. Okay? They should be hibernating. Some of them are too tired to try to find a safe place, a den under the ground, a hole in a tree to survive the rest of the winter. Sometimes they get so tired they just collapse on the ground on a roadway, whether it be a highway or regular street. People have encroached upon their territory. Deer, bear, antelope, hedgehogs. These hedgehogs hibernate. They hibernate for 5 to 6 months. This one was on the side of a road. We need to be very careful. We need to be very careful, folks. If you find a dead hedgehog during the cold months, do not bury it. Do not throw it in the trash. No one wants to see a dead animal in their garden or on the road. But it could be a hedgehog or some other animal hibernating from November to March. They usually dig holes to stay safe. But we have seen less and less green areas, bushes and wooded areas these days. And it's becoming harder and harder for some of these animals to find a safe place to spend the winter sleeping. Some may come into our yards looking for safety and warmth to hibernate. Some are so exhausted from looking that they end up sleeping in very strange places like roadside streets or even on pavement. When they are in hibernation, their heart rate and general body function slow down considerably as a way of saving energy that could possibly confuse each one of us that the hedgehog is dead. It is not. Just in case you see a stationary hedgehog or other animals, including sheep. Sheep don't usually hibernate, but they don't move a lot either. Bunnies might also hibernate in the wintertime. Other animals as well. Okay? Just in case you see a sleeping animal, make sure it is indeed safe and has a warm place so that it can last the 5 winter months. Just in case you see a stationary animal, such as a hedgehog, make sure it is safe. Okay? Whether it's in your garden or somewhere else on the street. Make a hole in a cardboard box and in a dry, safe, and quiet place so it can spend the cold months there. Hedgehogs are an endangered species. They are completely harmless and a very important part of our ecosystem. They eat beetles and snails and frogs and lizards and snakes, including poisonous ones. They also destroy mice nests and wasp nests and bees nests. They're not afraid of bees or wasps. The hedgehog can easily destroy a hornet's nest and eat its inhabitants by ignoring their bites. Scientists have long noticed the immunity of hedgehogs to strong poisons, including bites from insects. The antidote phenomenon is not yet known to scientists. Be aware when you see a hedgehog in the cold months, it costs nothing to help such a frail wee thing. Let's be kind to animals. Let's be kind to animals. Yes, I know this has nothing to do necessarily with emergency preparedness, but their lives are important also. Let's take care of these wee ones. Let's take care of these wee animals. Okay? Now, as we close out this program, I tried to show you earthquakes. I've shown you some volcanoes. We're going to talk significantly about volcanoes and a lot of earthquakes tomorrow night. Folks, I want to take you now into Isaiah, into the Isaiah book in the Old Testament. I want to go to chapter 51. I want to go to chapter 51, verses 6 and 7. It says, "Lift up your eyes to the heavens, and look upon the earth beneath. For the heavens shall vanish away like smoke, and the earth shall wax old like a garment, and they that dwell thereon shall die in like manner. But my salvation shall be forever, and my righteousness shall not be abolished." In verse 7, "Hearken unto me, ye that know righteousness, the people in whose heart is in my law. Fear ye not the reproach of man, neither be ye afraid of their revilings." What is the Lord trying to teach us here? Be not afraid. Look unto the Lord. The Lord wants to bless us, guys. The Lord wants to bless us here. Okay? Look up your eyes to the heavens. For the heavens shall vanish away like smoke, and the earth shall wax old like a garment. Things are happening to our earth. A lot of things are happening to our earth. We're seeing a lot of earth changes. Don't be scared of what you're seeing. I don't want to ever give you information where you would be scared. That's not my point. I want to give you information that you can use. Information where you want to prepare for what's happening, especially as it gets nearer and nearer to you, which it's going to. We know that. Folks, I want you to know that yes, I believe in God. I know God hears and answers our prayers. That Jesus Christ is the intermediary between us and our Father in heaven. Jesus Christ is our Savior, our Lord, and our King. Please, folks, listen to that still small voice within you. You can receive personal revelation from God. Get down on your knees and pray and ask for help. Ask for help in recognizing what's going on. Ask for help putting preparedness items away for you and your family. The Lord will bless you. The Lord will bless you. Don Patoka just says that being prepared is much more than just putting up a supply of stuff. If you're in tune with our Heavenly Father, you will be blessed to put away things that you're going to need during emergencies that will confront you. Emergencies are going to happen very soon. It could happen tonight, tomorrow, or the next day. But I know it will. That's why we're here. That's exactly what this channel is all about. Being prepared. May God bless you. May God keep you. May God bless you with those things that you stand in need of. I love each and every one of you. I would do nothing else but try to help. That's what I do. May God be with you this day and always. May God bless you the things that you need. God be with you until we meet again. We will see you on the other side. If anything else happens, we'll be back with you as soon as the information becomes available. Good night, everybody. God bless.